Okay, so we're gonna start today's class. Basically today, now that we finished the speaking section, we're gonna start with the writing section already. And well, we're start working on the writing section. So let's see what we have. Okay, guys. So the writing section is the last section of the test, the one that comes at last. And it's over 30, just like the other sections. And well, it's interesting because in terms of time, currently the writing section lasts 50 minutes, but starting July 26, because of the new changes that have been done to the whole format, the new writing section will last approximately 35 minutes, right? They have shortened it up. So we'll take a look at the writing section. In the writing section, technically, you're supposed to have two different questions. The first one is the integrated question, where you have to read something, listen to something, and then summarize everything or create an essay based on that material. And then you get the independent question, where you have to write about your opinion on something. Okay? Right now, this is how the structure is. The integrated writing lasts 20 minutes and the independent one 30 minutes. So that makes a total of 50, right? Or 55, even 1 hour with the instructions and everything. Now, starting July 26, then the integrated writing will stay the same. It will still be 20 minutes long, but the independent writing has been shortened, which means that it'll last only 10 minutes. So that's going to make a total of 30 minutes or maybe 35 with instructions, right? So I think that's necessary to say too. However, we don't really care too much about the changes right now because we are going to be looking at the integrated writing, which is the one that has stayed the same. So we don't care about those changes yet. Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions before we start with the integrated writing? Nope. All right. So this is the format for the integrated writing. First thing, you will have to read a passage. So you will have to read a text for 3 minutes, and then you will have to listen to a lecture, a university lecture, where the professor discusses that text that you read further. Okay? And then after you've read and after you've listened to the lecture, you need to answer the question, which will ask you to basically write an essay, summarizing the points from the lecture, but making sure to explain the connection they have to the ones in the past. So again, I'm gonna summarize this. First thing, you have to read a text for 3 minutes, then you get to listen to a lecture, and then you have 20 minutes to write your essay. 20 minutes, okay? Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions for the format? All right. So let's start with the integrated writing. Remember that during the first 3 minutes, you're supposed to read the article, right? So we're gonna do that. This is gonna be the sample task we do. This is the article right here. So I'm gonna ask you guys to please read this article and I'll give you exactly 3 minutes to do it. Okay, so please begin reading. Okay, so we're going to talk about what we have here in the reading. So can you tell me what this reading was about? What's the topic of this article?
The principal topic is about the advantage of driverless cars.
Okay, exactly. The topic is the advantages of driverless cars, right? So I would maybe even just say this is only about driverless cars. I mean, the topic is driverless cars. But if I ask you, what is the thesis statement here? Because this is an argumentative type of text. You have three different types in this question. In this case, we have an argumentative text. That means that the author of this text is trying to convince the reader of something, is trying to prove his or her opinion about the topic, about driverless cars in this case, right? So what is that opinion? What is the thesis statement here?
That it's much better to use driverless cars than a regular car.
Exactly, exactly. So this is about driverless cars, but this isn't an objective type of text, right? Because the author is giving his or her opinion. Now, in this case, as you said, the author thinks that it's better, that driverless cars are better than usual cars. Or if we have to choose one sentence from the text, maybe we can underline this one here that says, they will have a positive impact on our driving experience, right? Now, you will always have that in the introduction. When you have an argumentative text, first you will get the topic in the introduction. You also have a brief description of the topic. In this case, you have like an explanation of what driverless cars are and how they work. And then you have the thesis statement, which is basically the author's main argument, the author's main point, right? And that's in the introduction, that these cars will have a positive impact on our driving experience. And then you have three body paragraphs, because the first one was the intro. So you have three body paragraphs. Now, what does the author do in these three body paragraphs?
He's giving us some evidence of what he said.
Exactly. Yes, because the author cannot just say something without proving it. So in the body, the author provides pieces of evidence, and to be precise, they talk about three specific reasons why these cars are better than normal cars, right? And why they will have a positive impact. So you will always have that. You have three body paragraphs. It's always going to be four paragraphs, the introduction and three body paragraphs. And in each body paragraph, you will have a different point. So what is the main point in the first body paragraph?
Mm, less traffic accidents.
Exactly. And therefore,
Mm, no fatalities.
so that means that these cars are or will be
Mm,
why are they better than normal cars? Because they will be
much
safe.
safer.
So that is the main point. The first body paragraph is talking about safety, the safety of these cars. So according to the author, they are gonna be safer because of what you said, right? Because they will cause less traffic accidents and there won't be any fatalities. So that means that these cars are safe. Now, what is the second point in the second body paragraph?
They will be good for the environment.
They will be good for the environment, and so they will have positive effects in when you are using pollution. Right. And the third point in the third body paragraph.
Mm, passengers they could spend the time in another activities while they are in the way off to their works, to their
Exactly.
jobs.
So they can spend time doing other things instead of driving. So this will give passengers time for them to use, right? On other activities, on other things. Great. So those are the three reasons, three pieces of evidence that the author gives supporting his claim or her claim. I don't know, right? That these cars will have a positive impact because they are supposedly safer, they're good for the environment, and they'll give passengers time. That's the structure that you will always have when you have an argumentative type of text. It's not the only one, I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes you have, but it's always similar. You know, you always have four paragraphs. You have an intro and three body paragraphs. The other type, the other most common type, is where you have theory and no, where you have like a phenomenon and three theories explaining that phenomenon. So, for example, it would be like scientists don't know why dinosaurs went extinct. And then in each body paragraph, you will have one different theory. Okay, so that's the other type of reading that's very common. The argumentative one, where you have a main claim in the introduction, and then you have three reasons supporting that claim, or the theory type, where you have something, a phenomenon, a question in the introduction, and you have three possible theories explaining that thing. Okay, is that okay? All right. Now, after, remember you only have 3 minutes to read. However, the good thing is that you don't have to worry about memorizing this or about taking notes. You don't have to do any of that because it won't go away. It will still be there on your screen when you're writing the essay. So you don't have to worry about taking notes or memorizing ideas from the reading. All right? Now, after you read for 3 minutes, you will have to listen to a lecture, we said. Now, in this lecture, the professor is basically gonna talk about that, and it will be kind of like a response. So let's see, hang on a second. All right, so it will be basically like a response to that text that you read. Now, when you have argumentative types of texts in the reading, the professor is always gonna oppose and object to everything that the author said in the reading. So if the author says that driverless cars will have a positive impact, the professor will say the opposite. They won't have a positive impact. And the professor will also explain why, responding or objecting to each reason that was given in the reading. So the professor will also talk about safety, safety. The professor will also talk about the environment and time, responding to those arguments. Okay? And when you have theories, it's the same. The professor will respond to those theories, objecting them, explaining why they are not plausible theories, why they could not really be the ones. You know? So the professor is always against the reading, some way or the other. So we're gonna now listen to this lecture. I want you to please take notes because you will only listen to it once. And you already know the structure. You know that the professor will be against driverless cars, and you know that the professor will talk about those three main points that we underlined. So pay attention.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the same topic you just read about. A lot of people are very excited about driverless cars, but most of the media attention and praise ignores the problems with driverless cars. The author seems to believe that autonomous cars will cure all of our driving troubles, when nothing could be further from the truth. Take the idea that driverless cars will be safer. Remember, all computer software is designed by humans, so any type of automatic guidance system within driverless cars will be prone to error. For example, the driverless car mentioned by the author, the one that drove over 700,000 miles without an accident, actually hit another car just last month. It was all over the news because it makes everyone doubt just how safe driverless cars actually are. And what about the idea that driverless cars will reduce pollution? Well, some studies suggest that more people will begin to drive once driverless cars become available. Since people will no longer need a driver's license to get behind the wheel, age restrictions for both young and old will no longer matter. More people will be on the road, and it will increase the amount of cars. Pollution levels may actually increase with driverless cars, even if they drive in a more fuel-efficient manner. As for the extra time the driverless cars are supposed to give us, well, that may be such a benefit after all. You see, most people nowadays find driving relaxing. They enjoy driving their car while listening to music or talk radio. It's a welcome distraction from the usual routine. Once people start to use driverless cars, it becomes another space to do work or watch videos, which is how most people already spend most of their day. I'm afraid that this extra time in driverless cars will just be another way to work or waste time. Now, answer the question. Summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific points made in the reading passage. You have 20 minutes to write.
Okay. So, as you probably noticed, the professor talked about the same thing, the same topic, driverless cars, but the professor objected, right, to everything that was said in the reading. So can you tell me a little bit of what the professor said exactly? So we know that the professor is against the use of these cars, but why? What are the 3 reasons that the professor gives?
Okay, and the first point, talking about the safety, he mentioned that the system of these driverless cars are designed by humans, so therefore they could be some kind of mistakes in the system program, and gives an example that this one driverless car hit another car, and this was on the newspaper in the notice. And the second one about the environment, even though this could help to the environment, reducing pollution, cars will increase in the routes. So there are going to be some way to contribute to the pollution of the environment. And for the time, he said that most people use driving to just like a therapy of relaxing. And if they do not do that, there will be another way to work or spend time.
Exactly. Great. Thank you. So you're totally right. Those 3 arguments were well explained. They're not going to be safer then because the software is still designed by humans, so it's still prone to error. They're not good for the environment because the number of cars will increase, and people are just going to spend this time doing useless, insignificant activities, right? That we already do most of the day. So great. That should be your notes, of course. Maybe one way that you can take your notes would be using like this structure, this type of chart, where you have the ideas from the article here on the left. Although you don't really have to take notes, maybe some keywords, like something like driverless, okay, or a happy face, I don't know. And argument 1, safer, right? Argument 2, we're gonna say environment, and argument 3, time, right? Those are the keywords. But for the lecture, you should have more notes, right? You're supposed to have more, but maybe having this structure will help you know that you're looking for responses to these points. Is this okay? Do you have any questions so far as for the reading and listening? All clear? Okay. So now you have to answer the question. Do you remember what the question said? Nope. So basically the question said,
Sorry, Miss.
summarize the points made in the lecture, making sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific points made in the reading passage. So the question is here. To summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the points provided in the reading. Right? So the instructions are clear. They want you to summarize the lecture, but making sure to contrast those points to the ones made in the reading. So they just want to see the contrast between the reading and the lecture. They want you to kind of contrast both. Now, this is what we're going to do. We will have a template for this task. Remember that you have 20 minutes to write. This is a template. What you will have in your essay is 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph will be an introduction, brief introduction. The second paragraph, the third, the fourth, and the fifth are going to be the body of, the second, the third, and the fourth will be the body of your essay. So the structure is very similar to the one that was used in the article. It's the same structure. You don't need a conclusion. So it's just the introduction and 3 body paragraphs. So what are we going to do? In the introduction, we will talk about the main points from both the listening and the reading. And in each body paragraph, we will talk about each point mentioned in the body of the reading and the listening, right? So we will talk about safety here, we'll talk about the environment here, and we'll talk about time in the final paragraph. Okay? Now, in the template, you're gonna see that the structure is the same for each paragraph. We're not doing really anything new, right? It is, I'm not gonna lie, it's something maybe a little bit repetitive in terms of the structure, right? In terms of, it's not anything creative, anything interesting. It's not anything that would catch the reader's attention or anything like that. But you have to remember that this is just academic writing. It's not supposed to be interesting. It's not supposed to be fun or creative or different. And that's actually a mistake that some students make, right? They want to make it, because when they think of the word essay, then they are like, well, I have to make something cool and something that the reader will want to read. But that's not the case in this type of writing. It's just to demonstrate that you can write in an academic context, that you have good grammar, good vocabulary, that you can connect the ideas well, that you can summarize the ideas that were presented to you in a good manner with good details. That's everything they want. So here's what we're gonna do. In your introduction, you need to have 3 sentences. The first sentence is the one where you give some context. So basically you talk about the topic in general. That means the topic that both the reading and the listening have in common. So for example, you could use this phrase and you could say, both the article and lecture discuss, and then you have to talk about the topic, which was, as we said, driverless cars. Right, that was the topic. Now, I suggest that you go back to the reading, because remember that the reading will be on your screen on the left side. So you go back to the reading, and I want you to find one sentence here in the reading where you have that explanation of the topic. So in this case, what is that sentence?
These cars can drive without input from a human.
Exactly. That's basically the explanation. In this case, we have like a definition and an explanation on how the cars work. You will always have something like that. They give you some context. They're not just gonna start talking about driverless cars without telling you what they are, right? Because you will be lost. So you always have that type of context in the introduction of the reading, and you have to use that in your first sentence in your essay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy and paste for this time. Now, technically, you are not allowed, you cannot copy and paste, but you could, I mean, without copying and pasting, you could copy everything that's being said in the reading, right? That's not advisable at all because you have to show vocabulary too, and they will see that you're just copying and pasting. But we're gonna leave it there because I'm gonna ask you to paraphrase this sentence. So we're gonna say that both the article and lecture discuss driverless cars. You could say which are, or I don't know, a technology that works in this way. So what could you say that is paraphrasing this sentence? Or summarizing it too, right? Doesn't have to be that long.
Okay. It could be driverless cars, which is a type of technology simpler that allow us to use some kind of sensors or systems that permits, I don't know if it's that correct word, a car is driving without no human, something like that.
Okay. That maybe enable a car
That enable a car
to drive without a human? What did you say?
yeah, without a human.
Okay. Without a human. Okay. So the article and lecture both discuss, or both the article and lecture discuss driverless cars, which are a type of technology.
Yes.
That maybe we could say using sensors.
That using sensors
Enable a car to drive without a human driver, right? Something like nice. So that's what you have to do in the first sentence. Give some context, mention what the topic is, and if you can, explain. But it will be okay if you don't say anything like that, you just leave it in driverless cars, right? No problem. But maybe for some context, it's better to use that information you have. And then we will say the reading extract claims that, and here claim basically means argumenta que. So that means that we have to talk about, we have to mention the main claim or the main point, the main opinion from the author here. We're gonna say the reading extract, which is the article, claims that, and again, we could go back or you could see the text. And basically we said that the main opinion in the reading was that these cars will have a positive impact on our driving experience. So you just have to say that. You could technically copy and paste, but we want to paraphrase that here. So what can you say?
will have positive advantage.
Yeah.
The reading extract claims that they'll have positive advantage on driving.
Okay, all right. Now, when we say advantages, they are already positive, right? Advantages and disadvantages.
Positive.
So maybe you could say that they will, that they have, that they bring advantages, that they will, you could say you have a few options. So you could say that they will have a positive effect, right? Maybe instead of impact. Or if you want to mention advantages, you could say that they have plenty of advantages, maybe.
Plenty of them.
Yeah, they will have plenty of advantages.
Great advantages.
Great advantages, yes. Great advantages. Anything else you want to add?
No. Advantages. Great advantage.
And provides 3 arguments of support. So this is part of the template when you have an argumentative type of reading, where you basically say that the reading gives 3 reasons, right? But you're not mentioning what those 3 reasons are. And then we say, however, so this is a contrasting transition, and you say the professor argues that, and here we have to mention the professor's opinion, right? The professor's view on this topic. So what can we say?
Professor argues that. Is that this that this advantage has their weakness?
Okay. Disadvantages of weaknesses?
Yeah, I try to say that tienen debilidades o que son débiles, algo así. Weakness, no.
I don't know, maybe you could say that instead of disadvantages, that the points, or okay, although we already say this here, right? So maybe that this supposed advantages have weaknesses. I think it's okay have weaknesses. Maybe we could say are weak, right? I think that'd be better.
Are weak.
Okay. Objecting to each of the author's arguments. So maybe another way you could have said the professor argues that driverless cars or such vehicles will not be as will not be as favorable for society as the reading claims, right? Objecting to each of the author's arguments or something like that.
Okay.
The point is that we state what the professor said, the professor's opinion. And then we say objecting to each of the author's arguments. We're just saying that every reason is being objected by the professor. And that's your introduction. That's the structure of your introduction, right? You just give some context first. Then the second sentence was stating or summarizing the article's main point. And the third sentence was summarizing the professor's main point.
Yeah.
And that's it. Do you have any questions about that, about our introduction? Nope. All right. So now in the body, I'm gonna paste this somewhere else. Maybe. Okay, here. All right, so in the body, you're supposed to do the same in each body part. So in your body paragraphs, what you need to have is 3 to 4 sentences. Of course, you can have more, right? But 3 to 4. The first sentence is supposed to be a summary of the article's point. So it depends on which body paragraph you're in. If you're in the first body paragraph, then you're supposed to talk about the first point only, so only about safety. You're supposed to say that these cars are safer, right, according to the reading. You're not supposed to mix the ideas with the other from the other points in the reading or the lecture. So you cannot talk about anything related to the environment or time, anything else. This paragraph is only supposed to be dedicated to safety, to the first point. But in the first sentence, I mean, you're only gonna have one sentence for the reading. So one sentence where you summarize everything that you want to say about the first article's point, safety. You cannot have more than one sentence, and it's supposed to be short. You're not gonna make a long sentence either. Something short, but that is correctly summarizing the really main point. And now the other sentences are supposed to be the ones where you summarize the professor's point. But in the other sentences, you can explain more. You have to use more details, give examples if there were examples in the listening. So basically, what I'm trying to say is have one sentence for the reading, and you have to explain more in 2 or 3 sentences what you have in the listening, right? It should be like, I don't know, 35% and 65%. 35% for the reading and 65 for the listening. That's kind of how it's supposed to go. So we're gonna mention the professor's point. And then we will explain the professor's point more in depth with details. So for example, in this case, we will say the article starts by stating that. So here we have to talk about the point about safety. Basically, in one sentence, what the article said was that these cars will be safer because they will reduce accidents, right? They are not prone to error according to the reading. So what can you say to summarize that point?
The article starts by stating that driverless cars will be safer for humans.
Good. If you want, you could explain why. Say something like seems. So what can we say there?
The percentage of accidents will be reduced.
Exactly. The present, you said?
Percentage.
Okay.
Percentage.
Percentage of accidents will reduce, right?
Yeah.
Maybe will be lower.
Reduce.
Okay.
Will lower. Mm.
Now, that's it, right? You could explain a little bit, but you're not supposed to have more than one connector. Now here we say, nevertheless, in the presentation, it is noted that, which means, but the presentation says that. And here we're supposed to talk about the professor's point related to safety. So what the professor said about safety. What can we say?
The listening person that nevertheless in the presentation is noted that
There are two ways you can usually. So you could either start with the general idea, the main idea, so say it is noted that these cars will actually be safer, right, or something like that, and then you explain, right, and you say this is due to the fact that their system or the software is designed by humans, and humans can make mistakes, and then you go to the details. Or you could start with the details and say in the presentation it is noted that the software is designed by humans and humans are prone to error. And then you say as a result, so you could either use cause and effect or effect and cause, right? And then you say as a result, these cars won't really be safer in the way that was said in the reading, right? Or it won't really be as safe as one could imagine, like that.
Okay.
Or you could also start like, and then you have an example, right? I think in this case, the professor gave an example. You want to always have an example, but if you do, you could also mention it if you want, if you think it's important. So what do we say?
Okay, we could say, nevertheless, in the presentation is noted that these cars are designed by humans. And they are tend to make mistakes.
Right? Humans who
Who
are
are
like,
tend to
who tend to make
mistakes.
uh-huh.
Therefore, these cars are vulnerable to have accidents.
Cars are vulnerable to accidents.
Accidents.
Maybe as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. These cars are designed by humans who tend to make mistakes. Therefore, these cars are vulnerable to accidents. Okay, when you use these cars, how can you change that?
Yeah. Mm, they.
Uh-huh.
Therefore,
Good. You could say here, right? They are designed by humans, or you could also say, I think in the reading, in this case, they gave us synonyms, right? But it won't always be like that. In this case, they said driverless cars, also called self-driving or autonomous cars. You could use
self-driving.
them, but in case you didn't have those, then you gotta look for a way for a synonym on your own. So maybe you could say, in the presentation, it is noted that instead of saying this, you could use the word such. And you could say it is noted that such technology is designed by humans, right?
Okay.
Like that. Or such vehicles are designed by humans. Okay? Therefore, these cars are vulnerable. Okay. And anything else you want to include? We already have 2 sentences. So it's okay. If you want, you could add one more, or you could give more details, or you could talk about the example too. Usually I would suggest that you add one more because a paragraph is supposed to be something like this, at least 4 lines. So what else can we say?
Maybe in this case, we could mention the example that the professor gave us. That, for example, I don't know exactly what he said last week, but he mentioned that an article mentioned that this self-driving car hit another car. An article in newspaper mentioned that.
News, mention that.
That a self-driving car hit another Jesus, I forgot the word of. How could I say autopista? Because he mentioned that word.
Road
On the road?
or driveway? You know, highway, driveway, road.
Hit another car in a road.
On the road.
On the road.
A self-driving car hit another car on the road. Okay. So that's it. Now it's enough. Of course, if you wanted to, you could continue as long as it's important, right? If you're just gonna repeat the same ideas, then it's okay if you leave it there because all of the ideas presented are different, they're important. We have some details, we have the example. So I think it's okay. So that's it, right? We have one sentence summarizing the reading and we have two or more summarizing the listening spot. And everything we're mentioning here is related to safety. We're not talking about anything else. Do you have any questions so far? Nope. So the other paragraphs.
One question, Miss. In case we do not use or in the presentation didn't give us some kind of example about what they are saying, just we could mention, I don't know, like a fact that we read in the internet or something like that, something related. No.
You cannot use any type of information that was not mentioned in either the reading or the listening.
Okay.
Yes, good question. Anything else? Any other question?
No, that's all.
Now the other paragraphs are technically the same structure. So you just add some transitions before starting the paragraphs. Furthermore, finally, you know, I know that it seems like maybe it's something too long to memorize, but honestly, you just have to memorize a few words to refer to the reading, things like article, reading excerpt, reading extract, author, reading selection, and a few words to talk to about the professor, so the professor, the lecture, the presentation. And that's it. That's basically the template, right? And then you have a few reporting verbs too, like point out, mention, describe, claim, state, and transitions that you're supposed to know already. But that's the template. The structure is the same for the body paragraphs for all of them. So, you know, we have to talk about a few things like maybe grammar that you could use, some sentences that you could use, vocabulary. So for example, in terms of vocabulary, the best thing you could do is just study a few adjectives, things like positive, negative, good, bad. Study a few adverbs and try to use those adverbs. Like for example, you could say, for example, or such technology. Okay, therefore these cars are actually vulnerable to accidents as well, or are unfortunately also vulnerable to accidents, or are surprisingly vulnerable to accidents as well. So those adverbs usually, like they're a quick way to add vocabulary to the writing section. You have to be careful with the tenses too, for example. Make sure that depending on the type of reading and the type of content that you have, you're using the correct tenses. In this case, it's very common to have things related to technology and the pros and cons of them. So they will be used, you will have to use the future tenses, right? Or conditional tenses. You could use maybe a conditional sentence here too for the grammar purposes, right? But so those are like a few things that we have to see. But the structure is that, right? That's the structure of the essay. You just contrast the reading points with the listening points. So I don't know if you have any questions about what we did today.
Only one. And the final paragraph, we have to resumes all of that we mentioned in the 4 paragraphs before, something
Uh,
like that.
Sorry. You're not supposed to have a conclusion. You don't have to. You could if you had extra time, right? But honestly, if you had extra time, I'd recommend that you go back and check your essay, what you wrote. So you try
Okay.
to make some corrections, change some words, maybe look at the content, the format. But you don't have to have a conclusion. No problem. You don't.
Thank you, Miss.
Sure. So tomorrow we'll continue working on this. We'll talk about all those things that I was saying, and maybe we could also see the other types of articles that you can have and lectures that you can have because there are only 3, so it's not much to see. But we can see an example for both. So if you don't have questions, please don't forget today's daily survey, Alejandro, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, Miss. Bye.
Bye.